So at the start of every episode, I think of something smart-ass to say, but this time I haven't. You're listening to the Beat Motel podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, and syndicalus, boxy scrotix, angry flap, and foot biscuits, and we don't often bleep those words out, apart from because we're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on. Oh, Sam is full of rainbows, rainbows around his head. Oh, that was.
It's like I feel like Jesus.
You are like Jesus in many ways. You wear sandals everywhere. You're always covered in dust. I've seen you tear loaves of bread apart with your bare hands. I mean, Yellow Pages. Actually, tearing Yellow Pages in half these days wouldn't be an impressive thing, would it?
Is it creepy that every time I try to feed my child bread, I say, "Take this, eat it. It is my body."
I love how badly you delivered that payoff.
I trying to remember.
It's like my body and like stuff. Apart from for you, Judas, you can fuck off.
I've after growing up Catholic, I've tried to sort of repress that part of me, so I can be a fully fledged arsehole.
Fully rounded arsehole. See, I was brought up very, very Anglican, well, very sort of modern, happy clappy, more like evangelist kind of stuff. And I can remember the first time I went to a Catholic service, I felt so confused. I was like, is this even the same religion? It's very strange. But then,
oh, that's interesting. What was so different about it?
The amount of whiskey I drank before the service was. I'm not even joking. It was a family wedding from my wife's side of the family, and the father of the family is from Northern Ireland, and we went to a school that was taught by the Christian Brothers and all those rotters. But yeah, we had a bunch of whiskey before the wedding service. So
I feel like
might have added to my confusion.
Every time people talk about the trauma of Roman Catholics, I feel like growing up Roman Catholic and so on and so forth. I feel like I really missed out on the worst bits, and I've still, and that maybe that's the reason I really don't give a shit about religion anymore.
There's still time to make up for lost opportunities.
But like my dad was. My dad converted to Roman Catholicism. I don't know about the age I am now, so maybe there's a chance still. Well, I think he was a few years older than I am now, and it mostly to me seemed tedious rather than anything else. And then occasionally as an adult, I've gone back to church with my mother, who is still a practicing Roman Catholic, almost despite herself. And I just, I'd like, it's quite hard to take offense at a lot of it. And then they'd read out some really turgid bit of the Bible, either the first or second part, and you go, I don't know. It's just I never understood why people want to go and sit down and mourn for an hour. And the worst thing is, I mean, I guess if you got like some good monks chanting or good chorus,
you got some banging tunes.
Yeah, like some classics. But
the type of church I went to was banging tunes. I played in the church band, and it was as a composer, a songwriter called Graham Kendrick. And they are like the banging tunes, and they'd be like Christian raves and stuff. I can remember one of the techno songs, probably took off techno for a while. It was like, he's in the house, he's in the house, he's in the house, God's in the house, who's in the house, God's in the house. Yeah.
Oh, I think you should come on to that. You should record like a really. One of your bands should come on to that, definitely.
Who's in the house? Dog's in the house.
Just do it really straight. Jesus to the house.
When people talk about kind of converting between religions, I always think that sounds like a lot of work. I mean, I struggled enough converting between like vinyl and then CDs. Like having to like change everything would be. It just sounds like a lot of work.
I mean, maybe it's more like changing plugs rather than changing entire systems.
Oh, I've got a good bit of kind of today. That's because I went out on my bicycle and I breathed deeply. Do you breathe or do you breathed?
Breathe.
I breathed deeply and straightened out the creases in my lungs, I think, in ways that have not happened for a while.
Oh,
it felt good.
Good. It is that sort of out of breath cycling aspect, when your legs are pedaling, going 2 to the dozen, and you've already been giving it some. It's a feeling that takes quite a long time to recover from.
It does, and I've got the in-laws over at the moment, who I dearly love, but it meant that we're on the fold-up bed in the living room for the last 3 nights, and this bed, it's a normal-sized bed, allegedly, but my feet stick out. They must be a good 10 centimetres clear.
You're not even 6 foot.
I'm not even 6 foot tall, no. I'm just very stretchy when I'm in bed, baby.
Stretch. Quite floppy as well.
Oh, floppy in bed, stretched in bed. I like it when it goes in and out, all that stuff. So this is the problem of recording 2 episodes kind of back almost back to back, is that you'd still remember the jokes from the first one.
Yes.
Should we play some music? Sorry,
I feel that's it's quite on point because like gatekeepers and the scenes are replete with in jokes, and we do sort of indulge in the occasional in joke as well. So
kind of try not to with the podcast, just because no, I don't think it's very welcoming. I've always been sort of quite anti-clique. So it's really unprofessional to carry on talking when I move away from the microphone like that. But fuck it. Right, shall we have a riff of the week?
Yeah, all right.
Anyone who's listening to this and not watching it is missing out on Sam's huge rectal rainbow currently enveloping his skull. It's just so beautiful.
Put my head in the hole.
It's just so neatly in the middle of it. Right.
If I was actually sitting comfortably, it would be like this. So it doesn't have the same effect.
You're deliberately sitting uncomfortably. No, I'm doing the same. I'm sitting uncomfortably so you can see the Beat Motel sign here in Glamorous Studio A.
This is a podcast where only visual jokes work.
Oh man, did you hear that?
Oh, don't. Child might have an ear infection. Oh, there we go.
They give you an ear infection.
Oh, child might have an ear infection. So don't.
Oh, no.
It's so fucking tedious. Children, who'd have them?
Marsupials. Mind you, they have to carry them around, don't they? Mind you, have to carry around human babies, don't you?
Yeah, particularly when you have to carry on fucking 5-year-olds half the time as well.
Parenting does change significantly when you can no longer just pick your child up.
I'm sure you could give, your kid a piggyback. I mean, you might do some serious damage to your.
About 2 weeks ago, I tried, and I was so surprised that they actually clambered on, and I was a little bit like, "Oh crap!" I was joking. I managed about 50 meters, and I just had to go, I'm really sorry. Their feet were almost dragging along on the ground. They're nearly as tall as I am, which is not even 6 foot tall. And my God, did I regret it later that day. And then the next day, I think I'm definitely not 6 foot tall now that I've given my teenager, a piggyback. It's compressed my spine.
Yeah, they do crush you, don't they?
They say
body and spirit.
Ejector seats and fighter jets, they say that the pilot loses like an inch or something each time they eject because the compression. It's the same thing if you give your teenage child a piggyback.
That's what I've been telling my wife about sex as well. It was 8 inches when we met, and now it's barely 3.
Because she's been hitting the ejector button. Sorry, we can't do this. This is not us. This is not the way we talk. That's actually a joke somebody else told me, and I'm appalled I remembered it. Let's have a riff of the week. Unless you want to talk about your cock some more.
No, I'm already regretting that. So let's listen to it.
What's off of that fatal man of my lady parts in the tennis? Harbor the great dilemmas to take me back from a penance. Nah, I don't give a fuck about either. All you did was just use it. I played your part cause you need it. All it is was a bruising to fake the scars when you're bleeding. Now it's you and your truth, the excuses running or bruising. How did you as a woman think that this would be different? Why assume that the ruler gives a shit if you finish? Loyalty in my hubris, I won't speak to the foolish. Only speak to the bullet, but hear the screams as I pull it. Back the fuck up!
Just, oh,
Yeah.
that is one of the
Backxwash.
best bit of hip hop I have heard for a long time. And I love hip hop, and I love a lot of hip hop, and I have a very low bar of what impresses me. But that is, wow. Who was it?
Backxwash, Backxwash. I say that with the Finnish way. Backxwash, like hardcore bands used to fashion themselves with
Straight
the
edge.
Yeah, and she is rocking, and I love the way she uses her vocal and sort of ramps up the tension in the vocals, and the backing has a relationship to that. That tension and that sort of tension and release. It's not just it's a tense backing. It's not just sort of whatever. It's really sort of reflects.
It's absolutely thunderous. It's really, that is, if that's written especially for this, then wow. I mean, if it's sampled, then wow. But the tension and power of the flow of that, just that. Can we hear it again? I'm probably not going to play the whole thing, but fuck it, it's great. Let's play the whole thing again.
What's off of that fatal man and my lady parts in attendance? Harbor the greed of dealers to take me back from a penance. Nah, I don't give a fuck about either. All you did was just use it. I played your part cause you need it. All it is was a bruising to fake the scars when you're bleeding. Now it's you and your truth, the excuses running or bruising. How did you as a woman think that this would be different? Why assume that the ruler gives a shit if you finish? Loyalty in my hubris, I won't speak to the foolish. Only speak to the bullet, but hear the screams as I pull it. Back the fuck up!
Oh, yeah. Thank you for bringing that into my life. I'm looking at, they are from Zambia.
Yeah, living in Canada.
Living in Canada, yeah. And I love the name. The names of the albums are so great, or notable albums. This is obviously some research I've done. I lie here buried with my rings and my dresses. That's just cool. His happiness shall come first, even although we are suffering. That is such a loaded sentence. You know, it's that like skill of having a story in one sentence.
Mm-mm-mm.
His happiness shall come first, even though we are suffering. There is so many questions, so many questions around that. Brilliant. And the newest album, the oldest album, 2020. God has nothing to do with it. Leave him out of it.
No, this is from new album.
New one, is it?
New one. New album. And what's it called? Only Dust Remains. And that song we were listening to is called Wake Up. And that was released on the 28th of March. So only
super brand new.
17 days ago, as we speak.
New music.
But yeah, she apparently, a review by one of the people who bought it, supported by on Bandcamp, said of the album, another great album, less heavy and suffocating than the trilogy.
Wow.
But just as dark and dejected. So, if you're into dark and dejected hip hop,
but God, if
this is just the
heavy,
other person.
It gets heavier than that. I think there are some hip hop acts who have the promise of being heavy, but I don't quite understand. Like Death Grips, and I'm going to make myself very unpopular by saying I don't get Death Grips, but fuck it, I don't care what people think because I'm a real rebel.
I think they were very unique of their time, both sort of the way that they were distributed and also the way that they put their music together. But I don't think that. I think there's an aspect, and I'm going to be unpopular here. I think it was an aspect of shock value.
Which is nicer than what I thought, which is Emperor's New Clothes. Like everyone says they think something's cool, which I think does happen a lot in the independent music scene.
They sort of took a really sort of uncompromising sort of punk attitude to everything they did, and it was really cool. And they sort of they didn't come from nowhere, because Zach Hill is the drummer of Hella, and he's been an incredibly well sort of known and revered drummer.
I didn't know that.
Who we're gonna have some Hella later. I remember, yeah. But I like her pronouns are she/it.
Oh, really? What for Backxwash? How do you say it? Backxwash. Backxwash.
No, she just says pronouns. She's rapper, producer, cryptid, she/it pronouns. As in his, her.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I know what you mean. It is that's cool. She it rather. I've done a little bit of research just while we're chattering to find out what that backing track is, and I would not assume backing that all hip hop uses a sample, but there's just something about that just sounded very, very particular. No, it's a composition by it. And I just think it's fucking great. That's like pounding root note piano and then lovely stuff. Do you want to move on to something else, which I've been wanting to play for a couple of weeks, actually? Do you know, sometimes a band comes back from having not released anything for many, 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 many years, and it makes me a bit nervous. But then sometimes, completely out of the blue, things like this happen.
Now, this is more reflective of the unfair and racist shit that Scots get sort of bombarded with. But I heard the voice and I just think, tinnies. Nah. Do I need it? Nah.
I genuinely, this is such a difficult band to try and unwrap any meaning behind.
Oh, it's a fucking great song, though.
Did you ever have a guess who it is? You can probly guess if you know me.
Well, you told me, and I listened to it several times.
Okay, a way to shatter the mystique there.
It's Noel and the Oasis Ring Pieces.
It is Prolapse and a new song, On the Quarter Days, and On the Quarter Days is a reference to charging peppercorn rent for properties. Apparently, it's an Old English version of referring to. Look, shall I just read it? The title On the Quarter Days references historical English rent practices where symbolic payments, often a peppercorn, were made on specific days of the year, known as quarter days, to formalise contracts. This nod to tradition aligns with the band's penchant for infusing the work with cultural and historical nuances. I mean, you don't get a lot of bands bringing up stuff like that in their lyrics, do you?
I was wrong. They're not from Scotland at all. But he's got a very strong accent in the way he sings.
They were originally, he's Mick, Scottish Mick. Confusingly, they call the singer Scottish Mick. They did when I used to kind of know this band. Sort of. I used to go to their gigs when I was very, very young, and they were absolutely wonderful human beings. So as a teenager, that counts as knowing them. Yeah, so the singer would be referred to as Scottish Mick. Now, the bassist, who's also called Mick, also Scottish, which doesn't help the kind of which one's Scottish Mick thing. But I think they all met up in Leicester, and that's where they're kind of from, as it were. But yeah, he's got a very thick Scottish accent. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, like And I guess this just tells you about rather than sort of thinking of the great poets or the great sort of minds of Scotland and Celtic traditions, I think of Jakeys
What's
when
a
I hear.
Jakey? Is a
I'm going to get
Jakey
this
like
right.
what we'd call a Gary boy, or? I found the Gary boys hanging out in Felixstowe last night. I haven't seen any for years. I
A
wonder where they've all
Jakey is
been.
a slang word for a down and out, especially one who obviously drinks a lot of Jake.
Jake?
Methylated spirits. This is from the Dictionary of Scots Language. And it comes with the... I'm not even going to try an accent. This owl Jakey comes up and bites my ear for the price of a cup of tea.
How would biting someone's ear get you a cup of tea? Very strange. I've never understood that kind of language around things. We were playing... Oh God, I was about to say where in the country we were playing once. And we stopped at a petrol station, and this is 20 odd years ago. This guy tried to get in the van, and he said, watch out for... And he mentioned a racial slur for people from certain countries. He said, watch out for... They'll slit your throat for a £5. And I said, why would I pay him a £5 to slit my throat? And he just looked at me really confused, got out of the van and walked off. I thought, there you go. I didn't like put much thought into how to counter that like blatantly, aggressive racism. I genuinely just misunderstood what he was saying. Feckin' slit your throat for a £5, and I was like, why? Why would you pay for that? Anyway, so yeah, that's Prolapse on the Quarter Days, and I like the fact that
is there a new album coming, or is it just a standalone?
haven't got a fucking clue. I have bought the T-shirt though, and I've always wanted a Prolapse T-shirt. Their merch. I was going through a box of old tapes, and I found their merch sheet, which they used to put in the post, and this must have been early 90s. And it was so cool because they had their own bootlegs. There's like a couple of T-shirts, but there's a list of about 20 or 30 bootleg tapes you could buy where I guess they'd just got the sound desk recording. And I thought, that's something that's coming back around now. That's kind of cool.
Which of the... Have you got the... I mean, what you really want is, big old T-shirt saying Prolapse on your chest.
No, I've got the one that's got Prolapse in small letters, but then it's got a cover of... What is the most dismal cover for, I think, an EP I've ever seen? On the Quarter Days, it's like an abandoned bus shelter or something.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of, for a band whose first album was called Pointless Walks to Dismal Places, it kind of... I like that they've kept that thread.
I'm going to be a bit nasty and sort of say they didn't really fork out on the cover art this time. It's not a bad cover art, but they didn't fork out on the merch design.
But I like that musically they've come back. It's definitely Prolapse, but they're always mucking about with stuff. They're always trying things. So I like that la 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 la.
Oh, it's great. It's like such a great sort of combination of here is some sort of... It sounds like something out of time, but also like it sounds like this great mashup between sort of, I don't know, noise rock and pop vocals.
It's
and
like noise rock, krautrock, and pop vocals.
Yeah, and like a nice chorus, but ruined by some drunk Scottish person making it better. I'm sorry, Scottish people. I like Edinburgh.
Call him by his name. His name's Mick. Give him a name. Don't give him a nationality.
No, we are only our nationality, and I'm a middle class white Englishman. I look down on everybody else. That's my role in life. That was decided in the Brexit agreement with the EU, is that I have to look down on people.
So when that gets,
it's the just close the wet white packet.
Of all the things that I thought you might say at that point, that is definitely one of the least likely.
It's the burden of being the most recent former empire. But don't worry, we're not going to be the most recent former empire soon. That's going to be America. So
on that note, let's move on to the theme for this week. So the theme this week is bands we wrongly dismissed.
yes.
You sound thrilled to be doing this, and let's start with your first choice.
This rainy day is temporary. The contrast is why we got 'em. The sun shining through is just a cloud away. Hey, baby. So what you blown a fuse? Well, that happens to us all. Well, I come with great news today.
Oh man, why does he have to be associated with such misogynistic date rape crap? You know,
What? Who?
Pharrell Williams.
Hey, I swear sometimes I'm either ignorant, sheltered, or just unobservant.
He produced that song, that date rape song. She's out on night to get to dance, and he's out all night to get some.
Never
What's it
saw
called?
that as an interpretation. Lucky.
How did you know? How is that not the obvious interpretation
I've
of?
got an innocent, pure mind. That's why.
Oh, what's it? But yeah, I don't know. When Pharrell Williams came out in the early 2000s, and there was such hype around him, and it just sounded so. I'm not a person who sort of. I probably give things in the mainstream a harder ride than I give things in the underground, and because of the money behind it, because of the hype behind it, and then you have him appearing and like people sort of saying, oh, he's the greatest musical mind of his generation, and so on and so forth.
Steady
And
on.
then you have that song Happy, which still I don't like, but having been exposed to his work on soundtracks, the songs he writes for some soundtracks are fucking incredible. Like that song we just heard, what's it called? It's called Just a Cloud Away. It's such a good piece of sort of such a good piece of like pop. It's got that sort of classic R&B, but it's not it's sort of based on the classic R&B, but it's playing with a lot of things to it. His voice doesn't. I don't like his voice that much. It's a bit too thin, but for my liking,
It's kind of a soul voice, isn't it?
it's not that it's a soul voice. It's just that it's a bit. I don't know. To me, it's a bit thin. It's not weak. It doesn't have a lot of gravitas to it, and it sort of puts me off a little bit because I don't know why that would put me off, but it just doesn't sound convincing. That voice. It's a bit like, I don't know. There's one of the best things he's done, which was a collaboration with there's the soundtrack for this collaboration with Trey Parker from the South Parks, who's the bad guy in Despicable Me 3. Despicable Me 3. It's a song called Hug Me, and it's so good. And because I think Trey Parker is much more of a performer than Pharrell Williams is, he's much more sort of willing to sort of go the whole hog and sort of look and be completely fucking ridiculous. The performance of it is actually really convincing, and I sort of feel like, I don't know, if Pharrell Williams wrote songs and gave them to who's that? Some of these elderly soul singers. What's that?
Joe Cocker?
No, I like what they're called. This is always good chat with me when my mind's not working very well.
Just googling things.
Yeah, but like someone with gravitas. Even CeeLo Green, I don't know, his voice is amazing. It would sound better, but then you have to tell them to not warble all over the fucking shop. And that's one of the great things that Pharrell Williams doesn't do as a singer, is that he doesn't go over every single scale he knows in one burst, and that's unfair. But it's quite a grating thing when you. I don't know. I never liked that sort of modern R&B sort of thing. So what was that song that was
The
all
first time I
about
heard
dating?
Beyonce sing live, it was like just pick a key, not pick a key, just pick a range. I know you can do all of them, but again, that's another reason to love Bjork. Bjork's
But it's also that's it. Blurred Lines, Robin Thicke.
oh shit! I didn't know he was something to do. No, that one's definitely sketchy, or as
Yeah,
as the kids say now, sketch and dodge. It's definitely sketch and dodge.
I don't speak child.
You're gonna have to.
Well, I dictate what English slang he gets exposed to at the moment. So.
Oh, good. So he's being raised with like PG Woodhouse level slang. That would be great.
He keeps telling me that I look like I've been poured into my clothes and forgot what to say when.
That's one of my all-time favourite lines. Those.
Oh, so you're calling me? You're saying what? What? It's too clever an insult for me to take offence at.
The one thing that no one ever gets is when I talk about getting outside of something, getting outside of a meal. I'm just going to go get outside of a couple of eggs and toast, which to me makes total logical sense, but no, it's lost.
But yeah, so I dismissed him completely, and I dismissed him fervently when the whole blurred line thing's like, oh no, fuck you, and fuck anybody who defends Pharrell Williams, because he's happily sort of put out a date rape song, which I think he's sort of admitted now to some extent. But then I'm subject to these stuff he did on, like he did the Nerd did a great song for SpongeBob. And
is NERD still going?
I don't know. I don't care. And then Pharrell Williams does this great load of music for Despicable Me. It's in a weird, but I find it still like in a weird way. Like I really like them. I'm still not convinced I'd actually give stuff I wasn't subjected to by my child much thought, though.
That will happen more and more. There's several bands that my child's into that you don't get. If it comes to you just through your child, you don't get the colorization. You don't get the flavoring that your friends or the media might put on it. So there's someone called Mindless Self-Indulgence, who I've chosen as Riff of the Week before, and it's sort of quite interesting music. But I bumped into some quite well-known YouTubers from a YouTube channel I like, and one of them went, "Is that a Mindless Self-Indulgent patch?" Because I was carrying my kid's bag, and they've made a patch. And like it was not sniffy, and they sort of checked themselves and then kind of went, "Oh yeah, no, it's great that they make." So you don't sort of know what the flavour is that comes with it, but that's probably a more pure way to hear new music.
Well, yesterday we were listening to a band. We were watching videos of a band called Heavy Saurus, which is a Finnish heavy metal band who sort of do, I'd say, power metal. Every song, no matter sort of how ridiculous it is, comes with like a rocking guitar solo, like really like blazing guitar solo, and they're dressed up in these massive dinosaur costumes, and so like he's happy. I know. I was like, I didn't. I've listened to them occasionally, going, should I try and introduce my child to this? And I decided no, it's not really my thing, so couldn't be bothered. And then he chose it when he was looking at my phone. He just sort of hit it because the algorithms know I have a child. And so he hit it, and because he likes dinosaurs, and it's like, oh no, actually, this is pretty cool. I'd take him to see Heavy Saurus. They're playing the same festival as Cattle Decapitation.
Are they playing the one we're going to?
No, sadly not.
Oh, right. Here is my first choice.
Pharrell Williams songs would be better sung by Harmar.
So this is Harmar Superstar, and I chose this because I absolutely remember the hype around 2000. I think the debut album was, and I remember all my friends getting really excited. I just didn't get it at all. And then we were at ATP in Canvas Sands, one of the last ones. I think the Shellac one, and you encouraged me to go see him. And I can remember watching Harmar Superstar with Lizzo as one of the backing vocalists, and just kind of going, it's kind of fun and I get the fun element, but I don't see how that as I saw it at the time, that novelty would carry on working. And then I listened to the album that was out at the time. It had "Prisoner of Love" as the lead single, and I just suddenly went, "Oh my god!" The production of this, the attention to detail, to make it sound so mid-60s, and his voice. And the performance, I get it now. Doesn't mean I listen to him, but I get it now.
No, but I mean, I think that's fair. I think he suffers from the fact that he came out and he sort of proposed himself. He presented himself, and he got big in a way on a sense of novelty. And I've seen that. I last time I saw him, he was playing the Hope and Ruin in Brighton, and he had just got the news that. And I've seen him haunted by this sort of sense of he's a bit of a joke because he's a larger man and he's
not exactly massive, is he?
Well, he's not fit. It's not healthy, like body shape, really. And he sort of flaunts that as part of the performance, and he sort of does
in his pants when he at least had his top off when we saw him at ATP.
Exactly, it's sort of like it's sort of a bit. There's a performance with, I would argue, there's an intentional performance with sort of the grotesque in a way of sort of like the amazing music, attention to detail is astonishing, and it's all referencing a lot of like R&B and James Brown R&B and 60s sort of stuff, and what's it called? A lot of sort of soul, southern soul and stuff like that. And it's doing so very knowingly, but there's sort of like a pinch of humor in it. So when he was at this gig, he was trying to tell the audience that he was actually feeling pretty shit that night and asking people to stop laughing because he was not feeling very good because his friend had just died. People wouldn't stop laughing, and he sort of stormed off at the end saying, "I'm never going to play fucking Europe again."
Europe. That's very damning for Brighton's not like the rest of England, let alone the rest of Europe.
And but I sort of saw him sort of damned by his own inability to escape that novelty aspect. Even though I do genuinely think some of his albums are some of the most enjoyable albums put out that year, just because they weren't doing anything completely new, but they were doing what they were trying to do. What they did, as in they did old soul stuff brilliantly well. It was sort of like, how do we make this into? How do we rather than just reading the book of how this is done? How do we actually do it like it was done with feeling?
Yeah, the authenticity to it is incredible. But then I guess if you're going to make a video with Juliette Lewis pretending to do BMX tricks, then some of that gravity is going to be, I don't know, dented.
So my empathy was like, my empathy at that gig was with him. I understood where his frustration was, but also like, you can't play the clown all the time and then once go, but listen to me.
But tonight I'm serious.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. Because if you're the clown, you're sort of condemned with that clowningness. You don't get you're. It's hard to take you seriously when everybody thinks you're always being ridiculous.
It's a whole thing. We ought to move on to your second choice, which is this.
Now you're looking at a man that's getting getting kinda mad. I had a lot to look, but it's all been bad. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. My fishing pole's broke, the creek is full of sand. My woman run away with...
What do you call that little?
It's a bit of yodeling, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. So
That's
that was
the Hank and the Williams.
Hank and the Williams. Yeah.
With "I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive," which is an incredible title for a song.
It is,
or anything. You know what? Like, yeah, it's just a great title. Great play of words, and it's sort of more representative of country music as a whole. And I sort of charge Hank Williams with someone who broke down that door. Because I don't know, when the Johnny Cash biography, film came out with Wacky Phoenix, and I still listened to it and just went, it's not like, to me it's not Elvis, it's not Jerry Lee Lewis, it's not what's he called? Who wrote Blue Suede Shoes?
oh, God knows who wrote it, but Elvis performed it.
Carl Perkins wrote it.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
What, from the Libertines? That's Carl Barrett.
Oh, if anything should get you crucified, it's that. Do you have any friends left?
No, because they heard my podcast.
They were surprised by who you are. Yeah, and I don't know, just Johnny Cash, great voice, but didn't really care. And then frankly, the stuff with the bearded disappearing producer Rick Rubin.
Disappearing producer?
Oh, apparently he's never there. He just sort of sets up an atmosphere and doesn't actually give people notes.
Really? God, I could do that.
Disappear. So you get your name attached with him rather than actually getting anything back.
Do you think people would pay not to have my name attached to their recordings?
You could try it. And I don't know. It never hit me. That was like the big point of country when I was sort of very involved in learning about different things of music, and I tried to like it, and it didn't really hit. And then I don't know. Hank Williams broke down the door, and I think it's the lyrics, the cleverness of the lyrics, and the woe is me aspects that Hank Williams is sort of incredibly appealing. He's sort of like this. He's the lovable down and out.
It's gonna be. I will like Hank Williams at some point. It's definitely on that list of bands that bands or artists that I will like.
Yeah.
But we did a whole country music episode many moons ago. Annoying is one of the most.
When we were young men.
When we were young men,
I had hair.
I had teeth, real teeth. But one of the things that country music was just so soiled growing up in the 80s. It was just so saccharine, just so shit, and so fucking bad.
But this is that aspect of like we judge. When you're not into a genre, you judge it by what you get played. And if you don't know someone who's into that genre, you get played what gets on the radio, and so you hear Miley Cyrus's Father, and that represents country. You don't hear, the things that people are really into it. So when someone hears, say, metal, they get played Metallica, they get played Slipknot, they get played that sort of shit. They don't get played the really good stuff like. There's nothing good in metal.
Speaking of metal, Berry Sounds final was on Saturday, and I normally hate Battle of the Bands. Battle of the Bands can fuck off. They are just the most exploitative load of bullshit. I've said it before, but just in case no one's ever heard this podcast and is tuning in for the first time. So I went to the final, and Hello Kitty Funland played, and they were sort of sludgy Sepultura down-tuned kind of just cool stuff. Crowd went wild. The audience was there were loads of metalers I'd never seen, and there was a really tall metaler who must have been more your age than mine, and he was stood on the side of the mosh pit conducting it, which was fantastic. It sounds really odd, but he was literally like pointing, telling run around a circle, like separate the two. It was like having a, in line dancing, they have someone there goes, fling your partner by the toes now, call her a hoe, or whatever the thing is, do-si-do. It was like that, but for a metal band. And then Carlos, notionally the singer, said, right, we need to say thanks to somebody, and we're not going to reveal who it is. And then they played me. They played a clip of me calling them middle class. It was like, and then they went into a song, and I just heard my kid go, "That's my dad," and obviously I stood there not reacting at all. I wasn't going to go, "Oh my god, it's me!" But I looked around at their engineer, their producer, who was like just pointing at me like that across the room. I was like, that is just the weirdest thing. And then they came out. Carlos came out afterwards. Oh, they won Berry Sound, much to their surprise. Oh, they were so. I was speaking to Seymour, the guy who helps run it, is a singer in Miss Black America. And I say just their enthusiasm, and they're just throwing themselves face first at making music is just so fucking punk rock and so infectious and so brilliant. But yeah, hearing my own voice blast out through a PA during a gig when I'm not on stage was a unique experience. Anyway, let's move on to my second choice, which is this. You're not even looking at me doing the joggy horse thing. Doesn't necessarily mean I listen to it, but I get why people like Pink Floyd. And moving on to your next choice.
I mean, what's not to like?
Well, in life as a whole, or... do you know what I don't like? I was in a hurry to get to the office this morning, and I wasn't sure I was ready for a shit or not. So anyway, I pushed one out, bit nutty, and then it just wouldn't wipe clean. It's like I had a melting candle dripping out my arse. I went through half a roll of toilet roll. In the end, I just had to get in the shower and polish it off. That's what I hate.
What's your third choice? Really?
Ooh, if there's a punk rock equivalent of people
Pink
wearing...
Floyd.
No. I'm trying to think of a band who like everyone wears their t-shirt. I don't know, Idols. I see a lot of people with Idols t-shirts at the moment. Oh, excuse me. In the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, every gig was people wearing NoFX. They were NoFX shorts normally, like
Yeah.
knee length, and they were just so absolutely everywhere. I absolutely refused to listen to them. Then I heard a few NoFX tracks I really liked, and then I got really into them for about 6 months. Just absorbed everything I possibly could. Then kind of went off them a bit, and then heard this, which is The Decline. So The Decline is long, 18 minutes 23, and
It's so well done, though.
it's I mean, NoFX are quite a frustrating band to like, because the Decline it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece of not just the genre, just it's a really good piece of music made by exceptionally talented musicians, and yet so much of the rest of NoFX is so, here we go, formulaic, and is
But
so
that's what makes The
predictable.
Decline so good, is
But they have
that they take everything they do and they put it into 19 minutes and they do the best thing they've ever done. In all ways, it's, like, it's an amazing 19-minute pop song played in that sort of California, sort of punk style. And they do, it's so clever and it's so well put together and it's so, like, the musicianship is so good. And it's one of those things where, like, you want there to be more because it is so good. And there are, like, a few albums that are brilliant, but, like, it is diminishing returns, particularly by the end. The last sort of, I don't know, since 2000, I think since the last album I like is War and Errorism, and that has a little
mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Well, it's about President Bush. It's about George Bush, so it kind of does date when it is.
Yeah, and at the same time, that administration seemed to have given, like, there was a big, the original punks, the American pop punk scene sort of had a big burst in the mid 90s, but it had in some ways been going pretty, sort of been building up to that since the late 80s.
Oh God, easily, yeah.
Yeah. But then it sort of it got really boring, and it got actually pretty cliche once they hit big, and you had all these bands who were signed to major labels, pop punk bands, and you got Sum 41 and Blink 182, and it was just diminishing returns, and it's also got and there was nothing interesting in it. And then Bush came along, and he just sort of gave the American punk scene a kick up the arse. And it got interesting again. They got angry again, and they got, and then you got Against Me out of it. You got some of the, War and Errorism out of it. You got American Idiot out of it. Even if I don't like American Idiot that much, it's still a high point of, sort of the commercial success of that genre.
They call it what's the opposite of the nadir? The peak, I suppose. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is the whole thing catalyzed down into one album that's done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
So with NoFX, so these are bands that I dismissed at the time. Doesn't mean they're bands I adore now, but I acknowledge that they are. You can't say they're shit. And with NoFX, I wonder if they suffer from a bit of the same medicine as Harmar Superstar. They sort of went to such great lengths to be, hey, we're kooky and wacky. For example, putting the best songs on B-sides of EPs rather than I wouldn't say the worst songs, but not necessarily putting the best songs on the albums. And the second live album, I hear they've actually gotten worse live, or whatever it's called. The end of the album, you hear about the first 6 bars of The Decline and hear everyone cheer, and then the album stops, which is kind of like, lol, yeah. But I think, yeah, a bit like with Harmar Superstar, I think that does it's a hard thing to keep up for a long time and still make sense.
I mean, having read the book, basically they never thought it was going to be like their lives, and they're sort of surprised by it. It was some point in the late 80s that Fat Mike decided, actually, I'm going to take songwriting seriously. But he didn't maybe he took songwriting seriously, but he didn't take composition seriously.
Okay.
So he put together ways of writing brilliant pop punk songs, but he didn't put together ways of challenging himself to and figuring out how to keep modifying that idea. And so when NoFX get El Jefe, who is, I would argue, sort of the idiot savant behind the throne. He's the one who has sort of, I mean, he was the one with the real musical chops, the one who seemed to understand
I
like
think
how
he pushed the rest of the band to improve themselves as well,
um,
to keep up with him.
yeah, he's the one who he's the one who seems to sort of have the sort of the real sort of understanding of composition, of how to sort of color things. That's how I sort of understood it, and this is why he plays, the lead guitar in a lot of stuff. And it is the lead guitar. He does some really sort of interesting things in the lead stuff for NoFX. But that bass sound, they never got beyond that, and it's really hard to. I don't know how many bands there are that, it is a really sort of a real struggle for a lot of bands to evolve and to sort of challenge their bass when they hit a sound and they sound like themselves. It does seem to be a real struggle to then sort of move beyond that in a way that anybody finds satisfying.
Especially if there's such an emphasis on just trying to stay commercial, which bands more now than ever. 30 years ago, if you had a hit album, it gave you a bit of space. You could fuck around a bit because
But
you'd made your money and you could buy food. But bands just don't make the money now.
But I mean, that's the thing about NoFX, is that by the 2005s, they had made, frankly, because of the position they were at the time, then they stayed independent. They probably made shitloads of money.
Made more money than people would have done on the major because they owned everything.
So if they wanted to sort of go, oh, let's do like a free jazz album, like do what essentially Fat Mike is doing now, where he's just doing sort of what takes his fancy, but it's sort of like, I don't know, when I hear anything by Fat Mike these days, it's sort of like, well, that's just a colored version of the one voice he's found. It's like he doesn't have another voice, and he has a set sort of level of figures that he goes to when he plays his and that which is his sound, and he doesn't really go beyond that, maybe because he's scared that if he goes beyond that, the backlash is going to be even worse than people just saying you're a bit boring.
Like, it's so weird to think Fat Mike is giving a shit about the backlash. The man's done so many things to deliberately crucify his own mystique.
But he's never put out music. He's never put out a free jazz album. So he's doing something
That's
to maintain.
what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, he's doing something to maintain his audience, but he's just trying to filter them out in a way.
Do you think he ought to give us more credit?
He should give us some credit, yeah.
Yeah. Right, so speaking of free jazz...
I mean, what's not to like?
This definitely falls into the forbidden music territory. I could not play that at home. I'm probably quite close to. When I was preparing this clip last night, I loved that. Today, I've had a really busy morning. I've got a headache. Did not like that. Did not like that at all. Who was it?
That was the Dillinger Escape Plans with Jim Thea from the first album. And it's specifically the first album, which I don't think I was ready for it.
I don't think anyone's ready for it. Is that when they did a shit on stage at Reading Festival?
I have no idea. But yeah, it's it's sort of a weird thing of like the vehemency of the hype around it, and some of the people who were into it, I like as people and respect their opinions so much that I just kept going at it in a way, kept returning to it. And
it's
in
like
a strange...
smoking. You just kind of think, when you're a teenager, you keep smoking, going, well, there must be something in this. A lot of people are doing it, and eventually you go,
Yeah,
fuck, I'm hooked.
drinking as well. Like, wow, this is shit. Why do people do this? This tastes like shit. I'm here with my friends. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And in some ways, I sort of like the last two Dillinger Escape albums more than the first one. I think the thing that got me hooked into them was actually their cover of "Come to Daddy" with Fat Mike Patton, and that sort of got me like, oh no, this is really fun sort of aspect to them. But I think it took me quite a long time to really get into their music itself, and yeah, that album is just so intense and it's so dense, the sound, that like there's no space in the recording of it. So then to pick, and it suffers from that thing of, to pick up what the guitars are doing, you have to listen really closely, because really all you can hear is a man screaming and the drums hitting as many things as they can, as quick as they can.
Just the idea of playing that night after night on tour and still being up for it, I find it mind blowing. We need to move on to my last choice, because this is a band who sound like this.
Cooking till the inside. We're busy cooking for the gunfight. We're standing in this way on. Busy looking up for picking. I'm busy searching for my meat line. I said I couldn't hit it sideways. I said I couldn't hit it.
Too busy sucking on my ding dong. Whatever the lyrics.
The Oasis is...
That is Oasis. That's Velvet Underground, who sometimes a band is hyped so highly in like 90s when I was occasionally reading Q and Select magazine and whatever, that I just automatically don't want to listen to them. And each time I was getting interested in Velvet Underground, somebody would play me something like that, and I'd just go, what is this bollocks? What is this absolute shit? And I went through a phase of love. That's Sister Ray. Absolutely loving it. Just thinking, this is the most sublime, incredible thing. But when I prepared this clip last night, I was like, what is this bollocks? I love that it exists. 1968, the sound engineer allegedly refused to be a part of it and just pressed record and said, I'll be back in 20 minutes. And they made most of the use of that 20 minutes. The track's 17 minutes and 20 seconds long.
One of my favourite lines of the Ruttles is, I'm going to have to look it up. Keep going, keep talking.
But to be fair, I fucking adore the Velvet Underground, but it doesn't mean I have to like all of it. And I like that Sister Ray exists, but I'm not going to put it on while sitting in a deck chair in my garden sipping at Pimm's.
This is the line. Melvin Hall said in the documentary that their debut album, Please Rock Me, was made in 20 minutes. Their second album, Meet the Russells, took even longer. Longer.
He's a local hero, Neil. Oh shit, I forgot his name. Neil Innes. Yeah, he lived in Felixstowe.
But I was going to say about the Velvet Underground, it is that sort of like that same thing of, I don't think this is what a lot of stuff one struggles with, is that you're sort of told you have to like the fundamentals of the genre. Like, if you don't appreciate this, you can't appreciate the genre. And this is like, so you always feel a bit odd if you don't like the Stooges or the Rolling Stones, or think the Sex Pistols album is okay. Like, you're not allowed to think that. You have to give it reverence. You're not allowed to sort of think, actually, the Damned first album was more sort of exciting than the Sex Pistols first album.
I think the Damned first album is exciting as hell. They're just, even now, I think that, and I want to revisit Inflammable Material by Suspect Device, and by Stiff Little Fingers.
Stiff Little Fingers.
Because I think those two albums might be my two best examples of a genre that then kind of just disappeared up its own arse. But it's like first shots out the stable, Inflammable Material. It's so vitriolic. It's so fucking angry. It is like you have the Sex Pistols go, oh no, Pauline born in it. Actually, that song's horrible. But singing about that stuff. The Damned were just like nihilistic, just like fucking hammer and tongs go at it. And then Stiff Little Fingers, they were angry as fuck. They were really like, we've got something to say.
Rat Scabies seemed to be the loudest drummer on the planet at the time. And that sort of helped them. Like it was, I think, if anything's to go by, like, having a brilliant drummer is one of the first things in being like good before even you have choruses. It's hard to think of bands that the drummer isn't somehow a key aspect to it. I can listen to shitloads of music without a good chorus. Without a good drummer, it's actually quite difficult.
Going back a step, the Hello Kitty Funland, their drummer, she must be young. And I'm only saying that because they're like 14, 15, I think. Really, really tall guy playing proper metal guitar, easily in B, if not A. And then Carlos just sort of running around the place. But the drummer, she must be, I don't know, 17, 18. Quite a slight person. Probably the best metal drummer I've seen this year. And she's well known locally. She plays in another band called Jada Teeth, who are cool. They always bring back the band that wins the previous year, headline the final the next year. It's a band called Jada Teeth. Really lovely band, really nice, a bit like Divorce or sort of alt country kind of thing. And I couldn't believe it was the same drummer playing for both bands, because when she was playing with Hello Kitty Funland, she was tearing that kit to pieces. The energy and it was just fucking brilliant metal drumming. Absolutely perfect. Like if you bought a book, how to do perfect metal drumming, that's how you do it. And of course, that is what carries the whole thing along.
Oh, I was trying to look them up and I put on see if they had a Facebook page, and of course, Hello Kissy Finland came up rather than Hello Kissy Finland.
They are. Oh shit!
I think they should rename themselves.
It's a challenging
name.
Not
too late. It's not too late, guys. Rename yourselves. Hello Kissy
genuinely
Finland.
Don't know what I'm going to put the link to their Instagram in the show notes. But how do you live with that? How do you live with that band name long term?
I don't know. That's like if they actually sort of start picking up gigs and stuff, and that's going to be you're going to have to live with that.
You're going to have to live with that. There was a band in Ipswich called Charlie Brown who started to get some traction, and they had to change their name. So they changed it to Hooray for Snakes. Just, I thought it was kind of wonderful.
This is okay. This I hate AI, but maybe this is a good use for AI. Finally, a good use for AI. Come up with a band name.
Come up with a band name.
That isn't fucking awful.
Right, I am busting for a piss, so I'm going to go. I've sent you the link to Hello Kitty Funland, and actually just have a click because I'll send it to you on Signal. I just want to see if they look like you'd expect them to look. In fact, the picture of them in the middle is them on stage with Seymour from Miss Black America. Part of their prize was Ray-Bans from Vision Express, which I thought was kind of interesting.
They are children, aren't they?
Yeah. Fucking hell, they're hardcore. They really are. That's what I mean. The drummer is the girl. Really, really slight, but just so much power. So cool and so fucking spot on.
Oh, listen.
I don't think they had an EP out. They had an EP out Saturday morning.
This is on their Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Can you hear this?
Not really.
Good sound, quality sound. Good quality sound.
No, I need to go listen to it. My kid got up. She got up at 6 a.m. because he knew the EP was coming out. Got up, listened to it, went back to sleep. That's so cool. Right, I'm going to go listen to that after I've had a piss because I'm an old man with a small bladder. So see you later, Sam.